I will never forget the look in Emma's eyes when she walked into the house that evening. Her usually clear, bright eyes were shrouded in a thick fog that had no place in the gaze of an 8-year-old. She hadn't even put her backpack down before she ran into my arms, buried her face in my chest, and sobbed as if her whole world had collapsed. The teacher said I'm just like you. And that you're useless. I froze. It felt like someone had clutched my heart in a vice. My chest ached not because of the insult thrown at me, but because my daughter, the little girl who had never known the cruelty of the world, had just been dealt a crushing blow. Those words weren't just a petty jab. They were an act of humiliation, a declaration of disdain, spoken by someone meant to guide and protect her. I gently stroked Emma's hair, trying to keep my voice calm. "Who said that to you, sweetheart?" "Ms. Sanders," Emma whispered. She said it in front of the whole class. "Because I got something wrong in the game," she said, "just like your mother, useless in this life." I didn't really hear anything Emma said after that. Everything around me blurred. I could feel my heart pounding, my blood rushing to my temples. But I didn't yell. I didn't explode in rage. I didn't call the school in a fit of fury. Instead, I stood up, picked up my phone, and dialed my attorney. "Hi, Diane," I said, my voice firm and steady. "I need your help preparing some documents. I'll be sending you a recording." A few hours later, I had the evidence in my hands, a recording from another parent who had happened to be filming during the classroom event. "And in that video, Ms. Sanders' voice rang out clearly. No surprise that your mother's a nobody too." I played it back 3 times. Each time, my fists clenched tighter. That night, I held Emma as she slept, but I didn't close my eyes. I thought not about revenge, but about how to make them understand this. No one has the right to hurt my daughter. No one has the right to demean the dignity of a single mother simply because they fail to see the true worth behind silent sacrifices. And I made a decision. Tomorrow, I wouldn't walk into that school as an angry mom. I would walk in as a woman who knows the law, who knows her rights, and more importantly, who knows that her silence will be the most powerful force in that meeting room. The next morning, overcast skies and unshakable resolve. The next morning, the sky was overcast, blanketed by thick, heavy clouds. I wore a simple gray suit, nothing flashy, nothing extravagant. In my hand was a sleek black folder, neatly organized, containing everything I needed for the meeting at Hamilton Elementary School. I arrived 10 minutes early. The receptionist, who now recognized me, offered a polite smile. "Good morning, Ms. Natalie. The principal is waiting for you in meeting room 2. I nodded slightly, saying nothing. When I opened the door to the meeting room, Ms. Sanders was already there. She sat leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, her expression smug, like today's meeting was a mere formality. Beside her was Principal Bilson, a middle-aged man whose eyes carried the exhaustion of far too many meetings like this one. "Thank you for coming on time," he began, trying to maintain a neutral tone. "We just want to clarify a few things that happened in Emma's class yesterday." I sat down and placed my folder gently on the table, still silent. "Ms. Sanders has shared that this may have been a misunderstanding, that there was no intention to offend anyone," the principal continued. "I think if we can have an honest conversation, we can resolve this smoothly." "Oh yes, Ms. Sanders interrupted, her voice unnervingly casual. "I was just joking. Kids often misinterpret things. And besides, I heard Emma. Natalie doesn't have a very stable career, so I thought, well, everyone has their struggles, right?" I turned and looked her straight in the eyes. In an instant, her confidence flickered. Maybe it was because I still hadn't said a single word. I opened the folder and pulled out a cream-colored file, sliding it to the center of the table. "This is from my attorney," I said, speaking for the first time. The room fell silent. "Page 3 is a transcript of the audio recording your exact words spoken in front of second graders," I continued, my voice steady, not angry, not shaking. "Page 5 is the psychological evaluation confirming the emotional distress caused to Emma, certified by a licensed child psychologist." And I paused for a moment, then calmly pulled another sheet from the second folder. This one bearing an official signature and a red stamp. "Page 6 is a preliminary dismissal request already under review by the Board of Education. I have no desire to take this to the media, but I will not allow my daughter to grow up in an environment where public humiliation is passed off as a joke." Principal Bilson froze. His face had gone pale. "Ms. Natalie, surely this can be handled internally. No, Mr. Bilson, I interrupted. I didn't come here to negotiate. I came to end this. MS. Sanders sat in stunned silence, her lips pressed tight. Her arms no longer crossed, her hands were visibly trembling. The confident mask had shattered completely. I stood. I'll wait for an official response from the school and the district. But if I hear nothing in 48 hours, this file goes to the local press and regional education authorities. I closed the folder, pushed in my chair, and walked out without looking back. No one in that room tried to stop me. I stepped into the hallway where children laughed and ran about during recess. I spotted Emma from afar, sitting by the classroom window, quietly reading a book. I paused for a moment, watching her. Then I smiled softly. No one, and I mean no one, has the right to make my daughter believe that her mother is a nobody. 2 days later, a mother's quiet battle. 2 days had passed since the tense meeting at the school. The incident hadn't made it to the media, but I knew it had already spread through the faculty and parent community like a slow-moving oil spill. No one called me. No one apologized. But there was a strange silence hanging in the air, the kind that only appears when people realize they've crossed a line. To me, that silence didn't matter. What mattered was Emma. Since that day, she had grown unusually quiet. The cheerful chatter about school, her friends, and what she had drawn in art class, all of it had vanished. In its place were short nods, curt replies, and eyes that avoided mine. One afternoon, while I was making dinner, I heard a faint rustling behind her bedroom door. I walked over and gently knocked before opening it. Emma was curled up in the corner of her bed, clutching Momo, her old stuffed bear. The very first toy I gave her on her 3rd birthday. "Mom," she said, her voice thin as a thread. "Ms. Sanders said, you don't do anything. So you're not important." I sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her small, fragile shoulders. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "I do a lot of things, even if not everyone sees them. Sometimes people only look at appearance, at money, or titles, and forget what really matters. But if you're not important, then I'm not either, right?" The question felt like a knife straight through my heart. I held her tighter, my eyes beginning to sting. "Emma, no one has the right to define who you are based on your mom's title or status. You matter because you are you. You're kind, smart, and brave. I'm proud of you every single day. And I won't let anyone make you feel like you're less than anyone else, not even a teacher." She rested her head against my chest, saying nothing more. But I knew something inside her had been hurt. And I couldn't mend it with just gentle words. That evening, I called a friend, Marissa, child psychologist I had once worked with on a community project. She was someone I trusted when it came to emotions and child development. "Emma isn't talking much, Marissa," I shared as we sat on my back porch, sipping tea. "She's gone quiet, like she's afraid that saying anything will get her judged." Marissa nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "That's a common reaction when a child's self-worth is damaged, especially by someone in a position of authority, like a teacher. They start to wonder if an adult says I'm useless, then maybe it's true. And if the insult targets their parent, the feelings of shame and guilt are even deeper." I gripped my teacup a little tighter. I can't let her live with that fear. "You're not the only one who is hurt, Natalie," Marissa said gently. "But you are the only one who can help her see that she's not the shadow of someone else's cruelty." "So, what should I do?" "Start by helping Emma see the good in herself little by little. Not through empty praise, but through action. Get her involved in activities where she can shine, help her discover the value of effort, of kindness. And most of all, you need to believe in yourself." That night, I placed a hand on Emma's back as she slept, careful as if touching a fragile piece of glass. In the darkness, I whispered, "I'm sorry you had to hear those words. But from now on, we'll be stronger together. You are no one's shadow. You are my light." Whether she heard me or understood, I didn't know. But I said it anyway. Because this was the beginning of a healing journey. No one sees the scars buried deep inside a child. But a mother, the one who carried her for 9 months, who stayed awake through the cries, always feels them. I can't erase what Ms. Sanders said that day. But I can rewrite Emma's story with love, with strength, and with an unshakable belief that my daughter and I are worthy of respect. The news no longer stayed within 4 walls. By Monday morning, the news was no longer confined to the 4 walls of the meeting room. I received an email from Principal Bilson. The message was brief but clear. "Ms. Sanders has been suspended pending an internal investigation. We will be holding a full-grade parent meeting this coming Friday. I wasn't surprised. Not because I had faith in the inherent fairness of the system, but because I knew, especially in today's world where everything can go viral, no school was willing to gamble its reputation on a case like this. Particularly not when I had made it clear I would release the recording to the media if they chose silence. What did surprise me, though, was the reaction from those around me. That afternoon, when I arrived to pick up Emma at the school gate, a woman approached me. She wore a simple floral dress and glasses, and her demeanor was soft-spoken and polite. "Excuse me," she began, somewhat hesitant. "I'm Brian's mom's in the same class as Emma. I just wanted to say, thank you." I was taken aback. "For what?" "For standing up," she said. Other parents had heard things their kids said about how Ms. Sanders treated the class, but no one did anything. Maybe out of fear of making a fuss or thinking, it's no big deal. But when Brian came home that day and told me the teacher called Emma useless just like her mother, I felt sick. And I didn't know what to do. I was stunned. Not just by her support, but by the realization that Emma wasn't the only child affected. My story wasn't just our story. As I walked through the schoolyard, I received a few more quiet nods, meaningful glances, even a couple of murmured greetings from parents I'd never spoken to before. They didn't need to say anything. Their eyes said it for them. "We're with you." That night, I received a message from an unknown number. "I'm Linda. I was once a student of Ms. Sanders in high school. I read about the story on the parent forum. I just wanted to say, I believe you. And thank you for not staying silent like we did back then." I stared at the screen, frozen. Part of me felt relief. Another part felt a heavier burden. Ms. Sanders hadn't just been a strict teacher, she was the kind of person who masked cruelty as discipline, hiding behind authority. Friday arrived. The parent meeting was held in Hamilton Elementary's large auditorium. The atmosphere was tense. The chairs were neatly arranged in rows. On the small stage at the front sat Principal Bilson, a representative from the District Education Board, and Ms. Sanders herself, sitting silently. Principal Bilson stood to address the crowd. "We want to thank all the parents for attending today. A regrettable incident occurred in one of our second-grade classrooms, and it does not reflect the values or educational mission of this school." He paused, looking around before continuing. "We are conducting a full investigation, and the teacher involved has been temporarily removed from the classroom. More importantly, we want to hear from you, the parents, so that we can begin rebuilding trust." A hand went up. A father in the front row, someone I didn't know by name but recognized from school pickup. "My daughter came home asking if she was useless like Emma." I had to explain that just because a teacher says something doesn't make it true. But I don't think I should have had to say that. Another parent spoke up. "My son said the boy sitting next to Emma got scolded for messing up a game, and then Emma was compared to her mom. How can that be a misunderstanding?" At that moment, Ms. Sanders stood. The sharp, confident gaze she once wore had turned uneasy. I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I just thought. Sometimes kids need a wake-up call. Maybe I went too far. But I didn't mean to be cruel." No one responded. Not because they didn't hear her apology, but because it came too late, and it didn't ring true. I didn't stand up to speak. I didn't need to. My actions had already spoken for themselves. When the meeting ended, Principal Bilson walked over to me. "We'll be making an official decision in the coming days," he said. "But no matter what happens, I hope you and Emma will continue to have faith in the school." I looked him in the eye. "I'll have faith when I see real change, not just words in a meeting." He nodded, this time genuinely. That night, as I told Emma that other kids had also been hurt by Ms. Sanders' words, her eyes widened. "Really, Mom? It wasn't just me." I stroked her hair and smiled. "Not just you. And because you told me what happened, I was able to do the right thing." She smiled softly, then rested her head on my shoulder. In that moment, I knew my actions weren't just about protecting her from a harmful adult. They were about teaching her that when someone does wrong, you don't need to shout, you just need the courage to stand up. 1 week later, a new chapter begins. 1 week after the parent meeting, the atmosphere at Hamilton Elementary had shifted noticeably. Sanders was officially dismissed by the school, following a decision by the Board of Governors and the District Department of Education. A brief email was sent to all parents avoiding media scandal but not dodging the truth. A new teacher was assigned to Emma's class MS. Jackson, young, enthusiastic, and always kneeling to eye level when speaking to her students. Emma slowly began to return to herself. She started telling me small stories again, how MS. Jackson praised her drawing, how she was chosen as group leader during an activity, and how she stood up to speak in class without lowering her head in fear anymore. I realized, a child's self-esteem is as delicate as a dragonfly's wings at the start of summer. But if someone is there ready to protect, nurture, and spark their belief in themselves, those wings can do more than fly. They can soar beyond what anyone imagined. That Sunday afternoon, I took Emma to the public library. We'd started a new tradition, reading one book together each week and sharing our thoughts. Emma chose Mathilde, the story of a smart little girl dismissed by adults who stood up and triumphed with her intelligence and kindness. I smiled as I saw her hug the book to her chest like she had found a kindred spirit. She snuggled up next to me and whispered, "Mom, if I'm Matilda, then you're Miss Honey." I was stunned. That simple sentence was the greatest reward I'd ever received in my life. "Why do you think that, sweetheart?" I asked, gently stroking her hair. "Because you protected me from the bad person. And you didn't need magic, you just said what was right." I held her tightly. My heart warmed with every word. I wasn't a superhero or someone grand. But I knew I had done the most important thing I could have done in my life. I didn't stay silent. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, I sat down at my desk, opened my old laptop, and began typing the first lines of a scholarship application for a community education leadership program. I had once dreamed of working in education, but I had put it aside after Emma was born. Life, the divorce, the weight of single motherhood, everything had swept me into a relentless current. But what happened with MS? Sanders had awakened something in me, a quiet fire, a desire to help build a better educational environment. One where children aren't judged by their family circumstances. One where parents are heard. One where teachers like MS. Sanders are no longer seen as the standard. When I reached the section labeled Personal Goals, I paused, then typed, "I want to help create an educational space where no child feels ashamed of where they come from, and where every mother knows that her voice matters." The next morning, as I dropped Emma off at school, she surprised me. "Mom, today I want to say something in front of the class." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "I want to say thank you to the kids who didn't laugh when MS. Sanders yelled at me. And I want to say sorry to Mia because last week she dropped her paint and I glared at her." I smiled. Not just because of the adorable apology, but because I saw something in her eyes, growth. The kind of maturity you rarely find in an 8-year-old. That afternoon, MS. Jackson sent me a message. "MS. Natalie, today Emma moved the whole class. She spoke clearly, sincerely, and with confidence. Not many children can do that. Thank you for teaching her to be someone who loves and respects others." I read that message over and over again just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I'm not perfect. I've stumbled. I've felt exhausted. I've questioned if I was ever anyone in this world. But when I look at Emma, strong, kind, brave, I know I did something right. And I've come to understand something else too. Self-worth doesn't come from what others label us. It comes from how we choose to respond to those labels.